For this project, the potential for disaster is almost palpable. It's either going to go very, very well or very, very badly. So this is the latest mid-month mini mission inspiration prompt, and we obviously have the word echo. So an echo is something from the past, a repeating image, a pattern or motif, a shadow, rhyme, chorus or poem, a duplicate or a bad copy of an original. Now for me, when we're talking about echoes and imagery, I like the repeating pattern. I like a repeating motif in my art journal projects and that kind of stuff. So today what I'm going to do is I'm going to be using this 8-inch gallery wrap canvas. Now let me just zoom out a little bit. There you go, so you can see that a bit better, and I might just have to refocus the camera just so that we've got a little bit tighter. Perfect. So this is, I'll put that little card to one side. This is the circular gallery wrap canvas that I've got. I'm going to try something that I haven't seen done before. So I'm going to be using Distress Oxides. I'm going to be using my Roundell stencil. So I'm repeating the same pattern with the circular motif of the actual canvas and with the bubbles or that circular pattern in the middle. Now what I'm going to do that I haven't seen done before is that I'm going to be adding Distress Oxide inks onto the canvas, which is already pre-gessoed. That's the way it came from the shop. And then I'm going to be spritzing water onto the canvas once I've applied it directly to. So as I said, this could go either very well or very, very badly. So I'm starting off with the Peacock Feathers Distress Oxide, and I'd forgotten I put one of those blending foams already inside the container, so I didn't need a fresh one. I'm just going to load up the blending foam and apply it directly to the canvas. Next, I'm going to add a layer of the fossilised amber Distress Oxide. And of course, where it overlaps, it will go a little bit green. So we get 3 colours for the price of 2. So when I'm happy with the amount of ink that's on the canvas, I'm going to just pop those to one side and grab a small water spritzer bottle that I have in my stash, and I'm just going to give it a liberal spritzing all the way across the canvas, and then I'm going to grab the heat gun after making sure that all the ink has been activated and that oxidization process starts to work and everything starts to blend together, and just start moving that ink on the canvas, and then I can bring up the heat gun and give it a blast, make sure that it's all dry before I can add my second layer. Just doing a quick touch test to make sure it's dry, and then I can add some more of the ink over the top just to build up the depth of colour on the canvas. And I will repeat the same process with the fossilised amber as well. And again, once I'm happy with the amount of ink that's on the canvas, I'm going to activate it again with the water and then give it a quick dry. Next, I want to bring in the spiced marmalade oxide and just add in a few touches of that orange into the mix as well. And as with the other colours, I'm just going to grab that spritz bottle, just give it a light spritzing over the top and then let it activate, just move it around the canvas, and then I'm going to bring out the heat gun and give that a thorough drying. Next up, to continue that circular theme, I have a sheet of, well, it's a letter, an old letter from my ephemera collection that I'm going to punch 3 circles using a 1 and I think it's a 1 1/4 inch punch. Yes, it is a 1 1/4 inch circle punch from Stampin' Up. So I've just punched out 3 of those circles and then I'm going to stick those down onto the canvas using the paper matte Mod Podge. Now I know that it's going to activate the oxide inks underneath, so this is where it could potentially turn into a complete disaster. So I was very careful, tried not to get the Mod Podge all over the place, and then I did know that I was going to be adding some colour and some more textures and layers over the top of this, so I wasn't too worried about it going completely awry. And of course the colour from the oxides has tinted the Mod Podge, so it does create a nice coloured coat over the top and helps those circles to blend into the background. Once they're all stuck and sealed over the top, time to bring out the heat gun, make sure that they're completely dry before moving on. Once those circles are dry, I wanted to add a little bit more blue into the mix onto the canvas because I think it mostly turned green now, so I wanted to add some more of those blue notes back into it. So I'm just adding another layer of that peacock feather over the top, and then I will activate it and then give it a blast with the heat gun. Next up, I have what I call an orphan stamp. This is one where I've lost the packaging and I can't remember what company produced the stamp, so I've no idea what it was called, where it came from. In fact, I can't even remember how long I've had this thing for, but as you can see, it's very well used. So I have the Potting Soil archival ink from Ranger, and I'm just inking up the stamp and then adding that script just in random places all over the canvas. So next up I have another orphan stamp. Now this one used to be on a wooden block and I removed it some time ago just so I could have a bit more of a flexible use out of it. And I'm just doing exactly the same thing once again, but this time just dabbing that stamp around to get more of a text effect, and this time remembering to do the outside edges of the canvas as well. So once I'm happy with that, I will give it a quick blast with the heat gun just to make sure that those archival inks are dry, because I don't want to smudge them. Even though they are permanent, we don't want a permanent smudge. unintentional smudges are bad. Next up I have the big butterfly stamp from Indigo Blue, which I have on my Dilutions journaling block, just showing you there. And I'm going to be using the jet black archival ink, again from Ranger, to ink the stamp up. But I'm only going to do one half of the stamp first. So I'm just going to ink up the left hand side of the stamp, and then I'm going to flip it over and then just stamp the one wing coming in from the top left hand side of the canvas. And then I'm going to ink up the right hand side of the stamp and then flip it over and then stamp that down in the bottom right hand side of the canvas. And again, just to make sure that my archival inks are completely dry, I'm just going to whip out the heat gun and just give it the once over. Next we have my new Roundell stencil. I'm going to create a diagonal, I can't even say the word today, a diagonal pattern across from the top right to the bottom left. I'm going to be using the metallic gold modelling paste from Wendy Vetchian Studio 490. This stuff in the pot is a lovely sort of caramelly colour, but when it dries it goes a beautiful, beautiful lustre gold. So when I'm happy I've got as much of that embossing paste on there, or texture paste on, I'm going to pull off the stencil, leaving that lovely pattern behind. And then of course we do need to make sure that this is very, very dry. So I bring up the heat gun and start to heat set it, and then I'm going to leave it for about half an hour just to make sure and go get some lunch. So back after lunch and a full tummy, and I'm going to just show you the luster from that beautiful texture paste, lovely and shiny. So I've also brought out my titanium white acrylic paint, and I'm going to add a little bit of water onto my craft mat and then create a nice little bit of a runny consistency, and then I'm going to add some white splatters across the two sections of the canvas, so across the top left and the bottom right. And I am aware as soon as I add this paint on top of that ink, the oxides are going to react once again, and the whiteness of those splatters will start to absorb and start to be muted when they dry. So they're not going to be as white when they're finished. So I'm just going to have a quick clean up and tidy up and then bring out the heat gun. So next I have 3 of the butterflies from the Tim Holt Botanical Ephemera collection, and I've already put circular little foam pads on the back. I'm just trying to show you there, but obviously the light is quite bright. I'm going to peel off the backs of those, and I'm just going to stick them down following the pattern of the gold circles across the centre, the diagonal line across the centre of the canvas. So next I want to add a little quote onto the canvas, so I'm going to pull out my Tim Holtz clipping stickers, and I found the perfect little phrase to go on there. It just reads "Circle of Light." So I'm also going to grab my Vintage Photo distress marker and just go around the edges just to get rid of that stark white line. And I know you're wondering whether I did the same thing with the butterflies. I didn't. I deliberately left the white around the butterflies so that they would contrast with the white splatters in the background. So now my little quote is stuck down. I'm just going to grab that potting soil archival ink once more and one of the ink blending foams, and then I'm just going to very, very lightly go around the edges of the circle just to add a little bit of a darker frame all the way around. And once that's done, I think I'm going to call this canvas complete. Okay, so I'm actually quite pleasantly surprised that they didn't mess up as much as I thought they would. I was expecting the colours to just go all there. So yeah, you can use oxides on a canvas quite easily, as long as you remember that they are reactive to liquids going over the top like the gel medium. But as long as you plan for that and as long as you work around that, like making sure that you're going to stamp something over the top when you've done that to disguise where it has actually reactivated, then I guess that they're okay. So again, I think another use for the oxides, which is quite good, not just resigned to creating backgrounds for cards. So there we go. I'm quite happy with the way that turned out. So all in all, not very bad at all. So I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Share the video with all your friends. And if you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel already, you can do so by clicking the button at the end of the video. That's all from me for now. I will see you all again very, very soon. Bye for now.